Making a living from farming is not easy. According to the Scottish Government, agriculture is an industry dependent on support, with 85% of farm business income coming from subsidies. The average farm business loss from agricultural activities is £14,600. For sheep and beef farmers in less favoured areas, however, these losses are more acute, with the average farm making a loss of £27,400 a year without support. With our departure from the European Union, the future of rural payments is uncertain. Robin Dandy, Agricultural Business Advisory Partner with Johnson Carmichael, is encouraging farmers to review what percentage of their income is coming from subsidy and how low these subsidies could drop for their farms still to be viable and for financial commitments to be met. Many farmers and crofters will be wondering if and how they can survive. In addition to financial vulnerability, a shift in consumer preferences threatens to impact animal agriculture. A survey by supermarket giant Waitrose found that 1 in 3 people in the UK have stopped or reduced their meat consumption. The consumer research group Finder predict that 12 million Brits will be meat-free by the end of 2020, and Sainsbury's Future of Food report forecasts that by 2025 vegans and vegetarians will make up a quarter of the UK population. What are the reasons for these changes? The main factors seem to be concerns over the environment and climate change, factors related to human health, and a desire to uphold the rights and well-being of people and animals. New advances in biotechnology pose a further threat to the livestock industry. Independent think tank RethinkX describes an advancement in biotechnology that creates high-quality protein from microorganisms, fungi, algae, and protozoa. The report states that this protein will be superior to animal proteins in every way, quote, more nutritious, healthier, better tasting, and more convenient, with almost unimaginable variety, end quote. By 2030, these proteins are predicted to be 5 times cheaper than existing animal proteins, causing a drop in the demand for beef and dairy by 50%, with other livestock markets following suit. Whether we agree or disagree with the rationale behind these threats to our livelihoods is immaterial. The fact is, change is happening, and in order to survive, and maybe even thrive, we must change too. At a recent Scottish Farm Advisory Service conference, the day's emphasis was on diversification, making the best of what you have and shaping business around change. We were reminded that in the midst of chaos and disruption lies opportunity. So let's explore some of those. The first opportunity to be explored is whether growing crops for human consumption is feasible on your land. Currently, almost half of Scottish cropland is used to grow animal feed. More than 50% of the cereals grown on Scottish farms and more than half of all vegetables go to livestock feed. A 2019 study by Harvard Law School showed that if all current UK cropland was used to grow crops for human consumption, it would more than provide for the calorific, protein and nutrient needs of every person in the UK. Many Scottish growers are already doing this. Stewart's of Tayside is a famous example of a farm that made the switch from sheep and cattle to growing crops for human consumption. This turned out to be the profitable move that financed the purchase of the farm and led to them becoming the largest independent soft fruit grower in Scotland. Kettle Produce is another hugely successful grower who currently partners with over 50 farmers throughout Scotland growing roots, brassicas and salad vegetables. It's not just about fruits and veggies. It's also about repurposing and expanding the potential of some of the other crops that we already grow, such as wheat and oats, and resurrecting some of the oldies, such as hemp and fava, in order to cash in on the expanding markets. Even in areas deemed unsuitable for crops, pioneering farmers are growing food. One crofter in Sutherland is expecting to harvest 12 kilos of hazelnuts from each of the 312 hardy hybrid hazelnut trees planted on her rough Highland croft. Another enterprising couple from Murray are growing mushrooms in a refurbished shipping container, using the waste heat from a Speyside distillery to create the microclimate for growing. Despite these innovative growers, however, it is argued that most of Scotland's agricultural land is not suitable for cropping and can therefore only be used for grazing cattle and sheep. Currently, 77% of Scotland's agricultural land is classed as rough grazing or permanent pasture. Aside from the economic dependence on subsidies and the decline in public demand for red meat, grazing ruminants is environmentally problematic. By food group, red meat, that's beef, lamb and pork, is the highest emitter of greenhouse gases per person in Scotland, with ruminant meat having environmental impacts 20 to 100 times greater than plant-based foods. This is problematic as the Scottish Government have pledged to be net zero by 2045. A recent study by the Centre for Innovation Excellence in Livestock showed that even if all known emission reduction strategies are implemented, by 2035 we will still only reach 19% of the goal for total agricultural emissions. Clearly, reducing greenhouse gas emissions is not enough. We need to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So the second opportunity for farmers and crofters lies in cashing in on the Scottish Government's ambitious climate goals. The climax vegetation of Scotland is trees. In other words, if we leave the land alone to regenerate, it will ultimately return to native forest. A 2019 study showed that if all rough grazing and permanent pasture in Scotland were to be left alone to re-wild, it would remove 1,052 million tonnes of CO2 from the atmosphere, the equivalent to offsetting a staggering 35.5 years of current Scottish CO2 emissions. Private corporations and individuals are looking to offset their carbon footprints by paying farmers and landowners to do this critical work. Additionally, the Scottish Government have pledged £64 million to forestry and £40 million to the Agricultural Transformation Programme, specifically to, quote, support farming's contribution to meeting Scotland's climate change ambitions, unquote. So let's make sure we get our share of that. The third opportunity lies in farmers and crofters diversifying into non-traditional agricultural activities. A 2019 Scottish Government report found that farmers who diversify into non-traditional farm use have incomes that average £19,600 per year higher than farmers who don't. Quite an incentive. Examples of a diversification include activities related to tourism, such as camping, glamping or Airbnb, repurposing outbuildings to grow mushrooms, or renting them out for storage space or special events, and promoting the use of one's land for anything from glass sledging to music festivals. According to NFU Mutual's diversification report in 2020, 65% of farmers in England have already diversified with a total additional income of £740 million in 2018-19. To summarise, we have outlined 3 opportunities to survive and thrive the upcoming changes to our food system: growing crops for human consumption, rewilding permanent and rough grazing land, and diversifying into non-traditional agricultural activities. The questions that follow will ask for your views on these opportunities and give you the chance to add ideas of your own. Thanks for watching, and feel free to watch again.